We'll go ahead and move on forward. Okay, so our agenda for today. We're going to start with just some general welcome and introductions. We'll go over some meeting goals. We're going to talk a little bit about the community resources that we have available through coordinated funding, the Community Technical Assistance Center at U of M and Leadership Delhi. We're going to go over some general requirements and expectations. I know that sounds very serious, but pretty straightforward. I don't think anything that will surprise you. Then we're going to talk a little bit about office hours. Take a quick break. We know that initially we had talked about doing this session in person. To better honor your time, once we kind of looked over the content that we will be covering in the session, we switched to a webinar format with a recording that will be available when we're finished today, which you can share with your colleagues, just because we knew that that would be the best way to deliver this information and also honor your time. We know everyone's busy. I don't know about you, but I can't believe that it's late August already. Where does the time go? But we also understand that there is value in having the chance to connect with coordinated funding staff in person, particularly if you have questions that are particular to your agency and as you're looking forward, what things that you'd want to have addressed and have a private conversation about. So we will have an opportunity for you to sign up for office hours with staff, should you be interested to talk about that. Then Amanda is going to take us through a really quick highlights tour of the website, which is a really great tool for just finding information and resources throughout the course of the program operations cycle. And then we'll have our final Q&A. I think what's not reflected on this agenda is that we'll also have a kind of a midpoint Q&A where we'll answer questions up to that point. So don't worry, you don't have to wait till the absolute end to weigh in. All right, so quickly, we're going to go over the coordinated funding staff. I already introduced myself. I'm Kate Anderson. I'm here from the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation. My colleague Jillian Rosen is the other person from the Community Foundation who works directly on coordinated funding. Mercedes Brown of the Office of Community Economic Development is our designated staff person for OCED. If you have any specific OCED questions, always feel free to reach out to her. For both OCED and St. Joe's, we don't have a staff person on the phone from either of those institutions right now. But once again, always feel free to reach out to all of them and any of us via email. And that person from St. Joe's is Elizabeth Vanderpool. And then from the United Way, Bridget Healy and Amanda Real, who is here on the line, are folks from that institution. And what we wanted to really emphasize here is that we really think that there is no wrong door in communicating with us, which is to say, if you have a question related to coordinated funding, please feel free to reach out to any one of us. Yes, it's true that some of us have greater expertise in certain areas than others, but any one of us that you reach out to will be able to get an answer for you to whatever question that you have. So please go ahead and reach out to whoever you feel most comfortable contacting if you have a question. Okay, so our goals for today, pretty simple. First is to become familiar just with our general requirements and expectations from COFU. Again, pretty straightforward, but we want to make sure we take the time to outline them for you so that you can see them. Let us know if you have any questions. And again, so the second point is, if you do have any questions or concerns about the 2018 to 2020 funding cycle, this is the first of many opportunities that you'll have to raise those up and ask them and address them with us. But once again, today is only the first opportunity to do so. If questions come up throughout the cycle, we're always up for answering them. If you have questions or things that you're thinking about now that you're looking at these goals and you're thinking, oh, well, I don't know if we're going to address the big burning question that I have today. Hold on to it, see if we go ahead and actually do answer it today through the content that we have prepared, but also feel free to bring it up during Q&A and we'd be happy to address it then as well. So one of the first community resource that we wanted to just give you an update about today is the Community Technical Assistance Center at the University of Michigan. So CTAC has been partnering with coordinated funding since the previous cycle. For those who aren't familiar, it's a institute at the University of Michigan that's housed at the Ginsberg Center, and its focus is really helping bring to bear the resources of the University of Michigan to the social sector and the Washtenaw County community, particularly around how do you use and understand data to communicate your impact. You can see on the slide there some examples of the kinds of projects that CTAC is prepared to assist with. They have worked with coordinated funding grantees in the past. One example is they recently teamed up with food gatherers to prepare a report about the Medicaid work requirement. So really great resource that we encourage you to think about using if you think it might be helpful to your institution. How to contact them, you have a couple of different options. You see the email that's at the bottom of the screen, and they also have a request form on their website that you can fill out and kind of give them a sense of what you might be looking for assistance with, etc. And once again, I'll go ahead and repeat here that all of these slides are going to be available on our website, in addition to the recorded webinar at the end of this. Oh, okay. So pull up make sure our chat's working. Great. There we go. Okay. Second resource is the Leadership Deli. So this is a partnership between the nonprofit enterprise at work and Zingerman's, in addition to working with us as the coordinated funders. And it's a really neat opportunity where each one of those organizations brings their expertise together to create a leadership development experience that is one of the most, I think, well-regarded opportunities that we offer or that we're connected to through coordinated funding. Everyone that I've talked to that's participated has really had great things to say about it. We offer this opportunity once a cycle. Initially, the deadline was today, but we've gone ahead and gotten new to extend it, which we're very grateful for. But it is coming up quick. August 23rd, which is this Thursday, is the deadline to apply to take part in Leadership Deli. So if that's something that you think you might be interested in for your institution, we highly encourage you to apply. Once again, the link is available there and also on our website. I'll reiterate that this opportunity is available only once per program operation cycle. So if you think that this might be a good opportunity for your institution, we really encourage you to check it out. If you have more detailed questions about the content, we'd also encourage you to reach out to me directly. They'd be happy to talk to you folks about it. All right, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Amanda, who's going to take us through some information about United Way.
Thanks. I just wanted to make a note, especially for new grantees, that even if you're not physically receiving funds from United Way, if you're a coordinated funding grantee, we consider you our partner because of the way coordinated funding works in our investments. I physically mailed out partner packets, United Way partner packets, a couple weeks ago, so you probably should have seen that come across your desk already. I think they were mailed to attention to the EDs, so look for those if you haven't. I just wanted to pull up a few items out of that letter and the resources that were included in that partner packet. One thing that I want to make sure everyone knows about is, of course, United Way 211. I assume everybody's familiar with it, but I wanted to reiterate that we do expect that your profile and services are updated on 211. And I included information in that packet about who to contact and how to do that. Our 211 call center is actually located in Southeast Michigan in Detroit, but we fund the services for Washtenaw County, and we want to make sure that we have the most robust information available to clients or residents of Washtenaw County that may need to call 211. And I'm also really excited to mention that 211 recently went through a lot of improvements from the user side of things, and so the user interface is much improved now. If you haven't been there yet, check it out. You can there's interactive maps. You can download and print a list of search results if you prefer to kind of go into the database side of things and use it. I know that they're still working on cleanup and like it'll only get better, but they've also linked it with the My Bridges system. So people applying for benefits through My Bridges get walked through a series of questions to see if they need to be connected with other resources. And so we're super excited about that. In addition, you could also take your staff or yourself or people that are appropriate at your office on a tour of the 211 call center if you want. It's actually a really neat experience, and it helps kind of visualize how 211 works. And so you can either reach out to me or the contact included in the partner packet if you want to schedule that. Our volunteer center is of course available for anyone wishing to recruit volunteers. You can post your agency information and volunteer opportunities for free, as many as you'd like. I'm happy to help support that if you need help getting a login. Our mobile financial resource team is available for conducting financial literacy workshops on site, conducting one-on-one financial coaching. All of that's totally free. And then of course tax preparation during tax season. We have our own tax clinic opened at our site, a couple of satellite sites, and we will go on site to do tax preparation help on site. So I know some agencies have taken advantage of that for their employees, for their participants. If that's something you want to explore, you can reach out to Marshall. His info is here. We also offer complimentary meeting space to all funded agencies, all partners. Obviously there's restrictions like within business hours ideally, and then as availability permits, but you can reach out to me to learn more and I can help connect you with that. It's a great space if you've never been. I think max is about 65 fire marshal, 40 for comfort. So reach out to me. And then of course we also are happy to extend complimentary attendance at United Way campaign events for agency directors. And so the next one's coming up on September 12th. It'll be at the EMU Student Center. You can actually go register online and select the no cost ticket for agency director, one per agency. So you're welcome to go do that now. And we'd also like to invite you to run a United Way campaign if that's something that you're interested in and are not already doing. And of course we all support the social safety net, and if you'd like to have your employees learn how they can do that through payroll deduction or one-time donations, you can reach out to Madeline and she is happy to walk through that with you. We'd be happy to have your support too.
Great, thank you, Amanda. So one thing we wanted to make sure and cover today is just a year at a glance. So what are the other times throughout this next year that we should be aware of, that there are going to be coordinated funding related activities happening during. One thing that we'll mention up front is that should any updates occur, we will definitely be communicating them out to you, and there will always be an updated calendar on the website. So if you're ever in doubt, if you have an old copy, if you're looking at something, you're like, you know, is there something going on? The calendar on the website is always your best bet. Obviously, here we are today at our Grantee Orientation. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us today to go over everything we have for you. Good news is it's a little bit of a while before there's another required, well, actually, very long time before it's required, but a long time before there's even an option for an official coordinated funding engagement. We heard loud and clear through feedback and through the TCC evaluation that the robust 6-month reporting structure that we used to have in place was not serving everyone as well. So what we've moved to instead is a 6-month optional check-in call. And that is truly optional. If you would like to check in with the funders about anything at that time, just let us know how things are going, if they're going absolutely swimmingly, or if you have questions that have arisen or some concerns that you want to flag at the 6-month portion. Anything that you want to cover will be available to you to cover during those check-in calls. Since that's not till January, we will be getting into contact with you closer to that time frame to do scheduling, should you want to do a call, but that's kind of the next thing on the horizon. Then in May, we go into that second year of contracting. I know it feels like we just wrapped up the first one, or are wrapping up. But May will be when we begin that whole process again, because we do that each year. In June is when the year-end reporting will open up. Just to reiterate, this is a 2-year grant cycle, and the years run from July 1st through June 30. So this first year of support is running from July 1st of 2018 through June 30th of 2019. And that is the time frame that you will be reporting on for the year-end report that you will first have access to in June. Again, as I just mentioned, the next grant year officially kicks off on July 1st of 2019. And then August 2nd is when we're looking for those year-end reports to be founded and complete, so we can reflect on the year and see how things went. Also on the topic of timelines and timing, this is an area that we wish wasn't so confusing. We know that it is, to have each funder kind of handle this a different way. So we appreciate your patience, and we wanted to make sure that we took a second here to explain in this forum how this works. So from the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation, the way that we do things is each year we issue a lump sum payment for that grant year to each of the organizations that are being funded by us. So what that looks like is once the contract is turned in, we process that internally. We then mail out a check to you for the amount for just that first year, and then for the second year of the grant, 1 year at a time. St. Joe's, similar approach, a lump sum payment, but theirs issued generally at the end of August of each grant award year. And that is also the situation with the check is sent in the mail. And it's a lump sum payment for each one of those grant years. United Way of Washington County issues monthly payments beginning in July, and those are automatic transfers because they're with the times. So those you'll see as automatic transfers into your agency bank accounts. There's no one on the call from OCED today, but I know Amanda, you wanted to mention something really briefly about that.
Yeah. If you want to go to the next slide. So this slide is, the language is word for word from what the document is we sent to everybody that has payment timeline explanation on it. It's a lot of info, and I will not be able to do it justice and explain it clearly. And so the one thing I wanted to point out is Mercedes Brown is now your contact for this. Kimson Johnson is no longer at OCED. So Mercedes Brown is the contact. I know some of you have already been reaching out with questions. Please reach out to her if you have questions and need clarification on how to go through this public funder payment process. We realize it is quite a bit more confusing and involved than the other funders. So please reach out to Mercedes. We're sorry we didn't have anyone on OCED on the line today.
Thanks for your patience. All right, we're getting really close to questions. We just got a couple more slides, so I'm turning it over to Amanda.
So the general requirements and expectations are, of course, that all grantees act as good stewards of COFU funding. The grant contracts that you all sign and the partnership agreement are the definitive framework of requirements and expectations. So I would hope and recommend that everybody's read those. The partnership agreement especially calls out some specific things that we'll dig into some of those. And then we expect you would hear the expectations, as I just mentioned. I do want to call out the communication guidelines that are outlined in the partnership agreement. So you can reference that whole section, but basically this is referring to when you communicate about this funding as appropriate at your organization when you're talking about this program. That might be a blurb on your website, it might be a logo on your website, it might be in a newsletter, it might be in a social media post. Whatever is appropriate for your agency in the ways that you talk about your program and the support it receives. We have language provided for you in that partnership agreement that you can utilize to post in those places and use in those places. So reference that. The COFU logo and the usage guidelines are also on our website. I'll show you where that all is. We have multiple options as far as formats of the logo there for you for download, so you can use what works best. And this week I'll be putting in the mail window clings for new agencies, and I can provide them to returning agencies upon request. I think everybody got one at the last grantee orientation we had, but we have more if you would like to receive another one.
Okay, here we are. Time for questions. We're going to go ahead and bring up the chat.
It looks like.
Oh, Amanda, on top. Thank you. Already answered the question that we got, which I should have addressed, and thank you so much, Tony, for bringing it up. CTAC services are at no cost to you, so just another benefit to thinking about working with them. So once again, for folks who might have joined us a little bit late, the way that we're doing questions today is via the chat function. So at the bottom of your screen, you should see a little word bubble with some dots in it, and that's how you grab the chat. And if you have any questions, you can go ahead and type them in there for us, and we can answer them for you now. And if there aren't questions, we're also totally comfortable moving on. The next chunk of content is reporting, and so I'm sure we'll get plenty of questions for our second question period at the end. All right. Okay. Great. So Amanda's going to keep watching the chat function just in case anything comes in there about technical difficulties or anything like that too.
Oh,
we got one.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, Tony.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, Tony was just asking for multiple window clings for the YMCA and the childcare location. So of course, we're happy to provide multiple window clings if you have multiple locations.
Window clings for everybody.
And yes, contact information for Mercedes Brown. It is on that one slide, but I'll just type it into the chat box so you can see it too. It's brownmer@washtenaw.org.
Great. There it is. Thanks so much, Amanda.
Yeah.
All right, keep those questions coming. We'll have another chance to do a Q&A period at the end of the presentation. And with that, Amanda's going to talk to us a little bit about reporting.
Okay, so as Katie mentioned before, we did replace 6-month reporting, and so we're now doing the optional 6-month phone check-ins. That was based on feedback and capacity and understanding that checking in or reporting every 6 months was not always of value to agencies or to the coordinated funders. This past year, we worked with each priority area with it through the sector leaders to update the program strategies and outcomes documents, to further refine it for each priority area, bring consistency, call out priority populations, and have very clear definitions about what is being measured for each outcome and all those outcome indicators that you guys selected when you applied for coordinated funding. Our focus for reporting is really around understanding and support and not compliance. I think that's something that we tried to get across before, and I just want to reiterate it again. This is not about compliance, and it is about us understanding what's going on at your agency and with your program and how you're responding to that and whatever that might look like. The resources available to you. Katie mentioned that the reporting form will be open and founded at the end of June, but we actually have the draft report already up on the website for you. I do have it labeled as draft, understanding that perhaps small things will change. We're committed to not making substantive changes because we understand that can be a challenge in the middle of a grant year. And so that report's up there for you to see. I'll go into each heading in a minute, but it's there at our website. With the program outcomes and strategy summary document that was used during the application period, which was Appendix A, that's available for you online, and reporting FAQs, which I'll lift some of those up, but that I really encourage you to read through that document as well, because it basically addresses all the questions we've gotten about reporting that are general and applicable to everybody. Of course, if you have very specific questions about your program, we understand not everybody, it's not a cookie cutter situation. Please reach out to us and we can help you navigate that. Okay, so here is every header category on the final report that you can expect. I'll go over each one just briefly, and then of course we try to provide a lot of explanation or explanation where appropriate for each of these actually in the report document. So hopefully your questions can be answered that way, but of course if they're not, please let us know so we can provide further clarity. Overall numbers served and outcome indicator results. This is kind of the meat of what you're reporting on, since this is what you told us on the proposal you would measure and in your contracting what you would measure. So that is overall unduplicated participants served in the grant year, and then your outcome indicator results, which is what did you project to serve, who was working on, who actually worked on those outcome indicators, who achieved those outcome indicators, and that's basically it for those, for each outcome indicator you are measuring. We have all the general demographic information categories, geography, which is by zip code, the income categories, which is by federal poverty level, by age, which we have divided into census categories, gender, race, and ethnicity. So those are, you can see all of those, actually how they're broken down on the draft report. Please let us know if you have questions. Volunteers and interns, we do collect data on how many volunteers you use at your organization, and interns, the OCED uses this for some of their reporting and overall community report that they provide. And I know United Way bubbles it up to our large United Way worldwide network for different reporting. Leveraged funding received is also required. If you were able to use coordinated funding as match, or if you leveraged other grants based on receiving this funding, we want to know about that as well. The OCED also uses this to turn around a report occasionally about the impact the social sector, the nonprofit sector has, the economic impact in our county. We also leave space for you to provide program implementation challenges and barriers. And I should also say, with all of the overall numbers served and outcome indicator results, we always leave a narrative space for you to explain, hey, this is why we didn't meet this particular projection that we thought we were going to meet. This is what we're doing about it. There's always a narrative space for you to provide more explanation, because we know that straight up numbers is definitely not telling us the full story. We understand that there's always context around why things went the way they did. And we want to be able to understand that story. We also leave an open-ended, just additional information field. Is there anything else you think we should know that you want to share with us? That's there for you. Most significant change is where you can tell us what you believe your participants or your agency, what was the most significant change achieved with this result of this program. This was something we introduced last year, most significant change as a kind of a methodology for storytelling. And I will actually post that guide online for those that are new to it, that didn't go through it. It's just kind of a framework for getting to the meat of, yeah, like here's the numbers reported, here's percentages, but getting to the meat of what really happened as a result of this work that you're doing in the community. It's not something that's required for you to do this framework, but we are asking on the report, what was the most significant change? It's not a long field, but we'd like to know what your thoughts are on that. And then we also ask for a participant story, if you're able to share one and give permission to share, so that I know that all of us as different funding bodies turn around and tell stories to show what impact is being done. Okay, so that's every field that's in the report. So I'll show you where that is online, but it's all there for you, ready to go. So it'll actually be opened up and assigned to you and found it in late June, early July at this point in time, unless we bump it up earlier. It'll be due always in early August. And then we review it, all the funders review, provide feedback, support. We might have questions, just if there's something that we would need more clarification on. And of course, we reserve the right to request data at any time if we feel that there's a need to. It's pretty rare, but if there was ever something that we needed to request, we would. The full FAQ document, as I mentioned, is online. Here's the most common kind of questions and pitfalls that we have observed through time. Reporting of your numbers served should reflect your full program, not just COFU dollars. We understand, obviously, we're just a fraction of the dollars you're using to run your programs. but we want to understand the full scope of what you're doing within that program. Unless otherwise indicated, always report unduplicated individuals, not units of service. So if you had a client that you saw for 12 counseling sessions, you would report that one client, not the 12 sessions, as the units of service. And we understand some clients need a lot of a depth, a really deep touch, and some have a shallower level of service, but we're still just looking for individuals, unduplicated. Report in the unit indicated by the selected outcome indicator. Most of them are participants, but some of them are dollars or pounds of food or other units. And so we've actually given you space to do that. This one is big. All demographic totals should add up to the total number served. So that means all the zip code totals should add up to the number served. So if you tell us you served 100, but I'm only seeing 20 zip codes reported, that's a mismatch, and I'm going to have to kick it back to you to fix. We've provided an unknown field for every single category. We understand that sometimes there are just sometimes it's an undue burden to collect for every single client. If that's the case for you, we understand there's an unknown field. So that's why everything should add up to the total number served. And then the other really common thing is, and it's just because Foundit is kind of really hard to look at sometimes, but making sure that all of the necessary outcome indicators are completed. So everything you've told us that you're going to report on gets pulled through to that reporting form for you. So you'll have already populated all the outcome indicators you told us you would report on from contracting. And you'll need to make sure to fill in the subsequent fields to tell us what actually happened for each of those. And it's really common to kind of miss one because you're scrolling and you're scrolling and you're scrolling. And so we understand that, but just take a close look and make sure you've got everything completed, or I'll turn it back to you to fill back in.
Okay, great. Thanks, Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
So another area where we've seen some confusion, because it is confusing, is how and when communications happen from the funders to the grantees. The first thing that we wanted to surface is that there are some communications that are issued directly through Foundit. And generally you know which ones those are because they have a little bracket that says COFU in it in the subject line. And the limitation that we have with Foundit is that the automated emails can only be sent to the person to which the proposal is assigned in the system. So likely that's whoever was most deeply involved in completing the proposal on Foundit during the RFP process. That may or may not be the person who you want to be receiving the automated emails regarding reporting. So if you would like to change the person who is assigned to your proposal in the system so that the appropriate person is getting the communications about reporting, then it's absolutely something that we can do. Just get in touch with us to request reassignment, and we can do that for you. The other trick that we'll mention is what some agencies have opted to do is to set up an automatic feature in Gmail where whenever a communication is issued from Foundit to a particular email, it automatically forwards to whoever other's emails in the agency you want it to make sure that those folks are seeing those emails. So that's kind of a back-end solution on your end, but that is something that's worked well for folks in the past, so we wanted to mention it too. Just an outlining of when you will receive automated emails from Foundit regarding reporting. The first is when reporting is officially opened, which is approximately 30 days ahead of when it's due. The second will be just a reminder, but 2 weeks out, 14 days before the deadline. And then 1 day after reporting is due, if we didn't see a report come through for your agency, there will be a little reminder on that day saying, hey, this was due yesterday, just checking in to make sure all is well, and that we can get that information as soon as possible. So that's automated communications issued through Foundit, which is one kind of communication. The other main kind is just broad communications from coordinated funding staff. And for those large communications, such as the one that we sent letting folks know about all the details for the Grantee Orientation we're in right now, those are sent to the leadership and program contacts that you provided to us during contract. So there's no restriction here, obviously, that only one person from an agency can receive communications from us. Here, we send it to all relevant parties that you identified for us during contracting. And of course, if you would like to change or modify, add, subtract to the list of agency contacts that you provided to us, or other information about your agency, like if you move offices, that kind of thing, please just go ahead and get in contact with myself or Amanda, and we'll be sure to take care of that for you.
Great. Awesome.
Okay, so another kind of big topic we wanted to make sure and address today. This shouldn't be new information to you. It was in the contracts, but we wanted to make sure to lift it up because it is a change from past practice. Program operations, as in years past, the awards have been made for an initial 2-year period, which we've mentioned already during the presentation today. It runs through June 30 of 2020. This cycle, the new feature is that funding might be renewed for up to 3 additional years after those first 2 years. So ultimately, if we did it for all 3 years, as far ahead as through June 30th of 2023. Something I want to emphasize is that renewal in this case would mean we would not have subsequent participation in RFI or RFP cycles during those time periods. Renewal would simply happen through contracting. There wouldn't be additional application features. That would not be how things would be handled. It would be just a simple renewal. However, how this is exactly played out will be contingent on available funding, community conditions, and program performance. So there will be some opportunities for conversation and checking in and seeing how things are going, both internal to your program and external to the environment in which we all exist, and checking in on that. But the overall change is that there is this opportunity for funding to be renewed for additional years, up to 3 years through 2023. So it could be just for 1, it could be for 2, it could be for 3. Obviously a big question is why? And once again, based on feedback that we've gotten through from our grantees and as well as the TCC findings and the evaluation we did, recently told us that this was an appropriate way to proceed, particularly because it provides more stable support to high performing programs. So this is what was identified as the strategy to move forward and accomplish that. All right, so now we're going to have Amanda take us on a little tour of the coordinated funding website.
Yeah. Okay, so as I mentioned before, everything's on the website. We try to put as much as we can up there. I even moved it to the homepage, so you can just go to coordinatedfunders.org, and it's here. It's also under grants, program ops, grantee information. And so that has everything that we've talked about, all the reporting resources, all the helpful materials we've referenced today in this, and then of course we'll have the slide deck posted right after this, and then the webinar recording soon, probably not right after this. COFU logos is here. We also have the community outcome dashboards. This is not information you're required to use for anything, but it is some key community outcome level data we put together, both from programs funded in the past, et cetera. So this is the main place you're going to come to. I also always keep this calendar updated, and then there's always a principal calendar here it's always going to be the most updated version if we've made changes. We really try not to make changes. Sometimes that's impossible, and we have to. But in general, that's that.
Okay, short and sweet. Love it. Get back to the presentation here. Okay. Moving on. Okay, so at the beginning of our presentation today, I mentioned office hours. We switched today to being in a webinar format, again, to honor everyone's time kind of get the information to you efficiently and effectively. But we also understand that there are questions or concerns or just things that you would prefer to address with funders in person. And so we wanted to make sure that we made time for that for those agencies that would be interested. You'll see here on the slide that there are two main time slots for which we'll be having office hours. The first one will be September 12th from 1 to 5 p.m. at the Office of Community and Economic Development in NIPSE. The second will be September 20th from 10 to 1 p.m. here at the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation. If that's something that you are interested in and would like to take advantage of, you can go ahead and sign up via this Google Doc for a 30-minute slot. Once again, that'll be on the website, or is on the website already as well. It is, great. And we look forward to seeing those of you there who would like to do that. Okay, so we have reached our second question period. I saw the chat lighting up with some questions up here, so. Oh, Amanda might have already. Okay, I'm loving all the interest in the window claims. This is great. Great. Awesome. Are there any other questions that folks have for us that they want to go ahead and address now?
And while we wait for those to come in, I'll mention that as far as one next step that we haven't mentioned yet, we will be sending out a short survey to gather feedback about year-end reporting. We know that it can be a pain point for agencies. We're always trying to improve upon how we do things in COFU land, and we have our own constraints that some things we have to gather, but we still want to hear from you if you have feedback or what your big pain points are, what perhaps was inconsistent with how you report to other funders. So I'll be sending that out this week, very soon actually after this. If it would be helpful for you to receive the founded form earlier, things like that, please let us know in the feedback survey if you would like. It's optional as well, but we want to make that available.
We want to make sure we're doing what we can to make that as smooth and non-overbearing a process for you as we possibly can. So, okay, looks like we have a couple questions coming in that we can address. Oh, thanks. Great.
Looks like that might be it.
Okay, well, we wanted to leave time to make sure that we created time for questions, but of course, feel free to reach out to any of us individually. Take advantage of those office hours. Thanks again so much for taking the time to join us, and we will be publishing this webinar on the website, and we'll give you a heads up when that's available for you to take advantage of. Great. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.